Hey everyone, what's up? It's Haley and welcome to my channel. So for today's video, I am going to be doing a very late February wrap-up. So in the month of February, I actually read 15 books, which has never happened for me before, and I am very proud of it. I don't think that it will happen again, so don't get used to this long of a wrap-up, but I will say that I am only going to be talking about 9 of them in this video because I have already filmed and posted a separate contemporary-a-thon wrap-up, so I will post that in the cards and down below as well. Now, in the month of February, I was taking place in a lot of readathons. Like I said, I did contemporary-a-thon, but I also did Blackathon, Valentine's, and the BookTube games, and I was on Team Camp Half-Blood. And we won. So yeah, I'm super excited that I was able to participate in all of those. And I will also say that I completed my entire TBR except for one book. And that has never happened before, so go me. Let's just talk about the books that I read. So the very first book that I completed during February was Circe by Madeline Miller. And oh my gosh, I loved this. I knew I was gonna love it, and I am so happy that it lived up to my expectations. This is kind of a feminist Greek mythology retelling about Circe, who was sort of like the first witch, sort of. It deals a lot with her family. Her father was the Titan Helios, and her mother was a nymph, I believe. But yeah, so basically she receives a lot of verbal abuse and neglect from her family, and it kind of just deals with her standing up to her family and kind of coming into her own power and really, you know, taking all of the hardships that she had had growing up and using that to make her just like a very strong, empowered woman. And oh, I loved this so much. If you don't know, I am a huge fan of anything Greek mythology related. I also have already read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller and absolutely loved that as well. So just knowing that like I'm 2 for 2 with her books makes me so incredibly happy, and I firmly believe that she's going to become one of my auto-buy authors because I love the way she writes. I love the way that she kind of twists classic Greek mythology stories and just makes it such a beautiful, compelling read. Now, I'll also mention that Cindy from Read with Cindy, she read this, I think it was in January, because it was like the Book Junkie book club pick for that month, and I was watching her wrap up. I will leave it linked down below and I think in the cards, and I think she ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars, and I thought all of her critiques of this book were very valid and absolutely like things to consider. But I think just the fact that this book like really hit me and I loved the writing and Circe as a character, it was enough that I was able to give it 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely check out her review if you're curious about like maybe some critiques for this book, but yeah, I gave it 5 stars because I loved it. Next, I read another one of my all-time favorite books as of now, and that is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is of course like her memoir, and it starts with her childhood and it goes into her meeting Barack Obama and him getting into politics, and then of course during his presidency and a little bit after that. Editing Haley here. I just want to clarify that I don't really feel like I did the synopsis justice when I was talking about this book. I really made it seem like this book is about Barack Obama's political career through the lens of Michelle Obama, and that's very much not what it's about. It really focuses on, of course, Michelle Obama and all the amazing things that she accomplishes, and I don't want that to be overshadowed by the fact that her husband was president, because that's not really what this book follows, and I just want to clarify. And I listened to this mostly on audiobook because Michelle Obama does narrate it, and oh, it was so good. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, if you couldn't tell. I think the way that she writes this, first of all, is beautiful. She is such a strong, intelligent woman, so I really wasn't surprised that it was well written, but I think just kind of reading this and seeing everything that she thought and went through and seeing her take on so many things that happened in her life gave me so much more respect for her, and I'm so happy I read this, and I am already itching to reread it, but I am trying to hold off because there are a million other books that I need to read. The next book that I read during February was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was the group pick for Blackathon, and again, another 5 out of 5 star read for me. I started off the month like on like the highest of highs with these first 3 books, and this book was... Again, I listened to this on audiobook because if you don't know, this is written in poetry format, but it is kind of in like a slam poetry style. So Elizabeth Acevedo actually narrates the book. She performs it like it is a slam poetry reading, and she does a phenomenal job of it. And I think just the fact that it is written with so much emotion and you can hear her narrate it, it added that extra level for me. So I think if I had read this physically, it probably would have been a 4.5 stars, but the fact that I did read it on audiobook made it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's a book that I continue to think about and one that I actually really related to. So if you don't know, this is about our main character, Xiomara. She, I believe, is from a family that is that immigrated from the Dominican Republic. I will leave that, I need to double check, but I will leave that information like right here. It is about her, who she's living in a Harlem neighborhood with her parents and her twin brother, and throughout this book she is really coming to struggle with religion. Her mother is a very religious person. Before she got married, she actually wanted to become a nun, and that is something that Xiomara really struggles with. She really questions the faith, and that leads to some tension with her mother. And it also deals with the fact that she just kind of doesn't feel comfortable in her own body. She is described as a curvy girl. She's supposed to be very tall. She's got a big booty, and a lot of times that leads to her being objectified by men and just feeling very uncomfortable and kind of just standing out in a way that she doesn't really want to. And throughout this book, she really uses poetry as a way to get her thoughts down and to kind of vent, and she discovers slam poetry and meets a boy, and it is about kind of the different things that come with that. So there's so much more to the story than I can really say. I just recommend you pick it up, and I think one of the reasons why I love this book so much is the fact that I related to Xiomara so much. Of course, I am not Dominican, but just the fact, like, her struggle with religion was so relatable for me. And also to Xiomara's struggle with her body was something that I related a lot to. I am a short person, but I would say I have like kind of more of an athletic build. I have been curvier in the past. I don't talk about this a lot, but I recently lost about 30 pounds, and just a lot of that was because I felt so uncomfortable in my body, and I still feel super uncomfortable in my body. So just like hearing her discuss that and use poetry as an outlet was something that I related so much to, and just really it just really resonated with me. So again, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I'm going to talk about 2 books kind of out of order, but I want to talk about them together just because of sort of their content and the discussions that they have. But those are Odd One Out by Nick Stone and Little and Lion by Brandy Colbert. So these books are very different in their plots, but in the discussions that they have, they kind of touch on similar things. So Odd One Out follows a group of 3 friends, and they kind of have a love triangle of sorts. It follows Jupiter, who is a lesbian. It follows Courtney Cooper, who is straight, and it follows Ray, who is a new girl at the school and new to this friend group, and she throughout this novel begins to question her sexuality and really look at bisexuality as a part of her identity. And this follows all 3 of their perspectives kind of separately. First, it follows Cooper, who is black, and he's kind of in love with Jupiter, who has been his best friend forever. But of course, as I said, Jupiter is a lesbian, so that causes a lot of problems, and a lot of it is him kind of coming to terms with the fact that she will probably never have feelings for him. And then again, Ray is the new girl, and she kind of starts to have feelings for both Cooper and Jupiter, and a lot of it is again her really figuring out her identity. She is also half Chinese, half Irish. And then there's Jupiter. She, like I said, is a lesbian, and I also believe she might be mixed race. I don't think it ever specified, but it really just follows them going through their friendship and dealing with this kind of love triangle that comes about. I won't say that I loved this book. I thought it was good, but it wasn't the best. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars just because I felt like a lot of times the dialogue was really forced and the characters were not very likable. There was also kind of like a cheating situation in this, and I don't like cheating, especially if there is like established monogamy. Okay, I'm gonna put this down for a sec and then I'm gonna talk about Little Nine and then I'm gonna talk about them together. But Little Nine is about our main character, Suzette, who is Black, and she has just gone home to Los Angeles after being away at boarding school, where she was in a relationship with a girl for the first time. And when she comes home, she really starts to question her sexuality as she has feelings for both a guy and a girl. And it also deals with her relationship with her stepbrother, who was recently diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and as a result that kind of changes their relationship and puts her in a position where she is trying to figure out what exactly she needs to do for her brother so that he realizes that like she's there for him and that she is someone that he can turn to. Suzette, again, is questioning because she has feelings for both a guy and a girl in this book, and we really have, I'm not going to spoil this, but we have discussions of sexuality in this one as well. And I think they're both done very well. I thought that it brought up a lot of good points and I really enjoyed reading about it. But I will say that Odd One Out I felt like was a little more inclusive in that it brought in to the discussion non-binary and trans people. So that's just something to note. I wanted to talk about those together because they both deal with characters that are questioning their sexuality and deals with the discussion of if labels are necessary. I think for some people, they're definitely something that like people hold on to, that they want to have a label, they want to like have a name for their sexuality and for the way that they identify, and that's totally fine, that is totally valid. But there are also people who feel like labels can be too restrictive because like gender, sexuality is fluid and they don't always feel the need to identify. So that is just something that is brought up in these 2 books. I would definitely recommend them for people who are questioning and who kind of want to see more of that discussion on the page. But again, I gave Odd One Out 3 out of 5 stars and I gave Little Nine 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, next let's talk about 2 graphic novels that I read during the month of February. The first of which was Saga Volume 2 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I gave this one, I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, 4.5. This is of course the continuation of Volume 1, and it deals with, it's basically, as I'm sure you've heard, Romeo and Juliet set in space. It follows 2 people who have fallen in love. They are both from opposing sides of warring planets, and they are kind of on the run because they have fallen in love and had a child, which is illegal. And it just follows their adventures and them trying to escape from a whole slew of people that are trying to kill them. And this is a graphic novel series that does not shy away from being graphic and raunchy. I definitely would not recommend it for someone who is younger because there are some very detailed images in here. But all in all, I think this series is so fun. I love so many of the characters, and I love how, you know, the people that you don't think you're supposed to root for are kind of like humanized in the way that they are, like, you know more about their backstory, so you kind of feel for them. You feel for the people that you kind of expect to think of as the villains, but then they're like not really in your mind. It's good. Read it, okay? Read it. And then next I read Goldie, Vance Volume 1. I read this on Scribd, and it is basically kind of like a Nancy Drew graphic novel in which the main character is Black and queer. She works with her father at this really popular hotel in Florida, and I think it takes place like during the Cold War era. But basically Goldie Vance, she works at the hotel. I think she does like cleaning or something. Oh no, she's a valet, but she likes to solve mysteries. mysteries. So there is like a big mystery that happens in this one, and it was so fun. I really enjoyed it, and it had kind of a fun twist to it. So I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was an excellent start to this graphic novel series. I cannot wait to continue. And 2, I thought the art style was beautiful. The colors are so rich and vibrant, and Goldie Vance is just such an amazing character. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely do so. The second to last book that I read in the month of February was The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This is a thriller that I think kind of became popular last year. I read it on audiobook, and it is about our main character, whose name is escaping me. But anyways, she went to this summer camp when she was younger, and during that time 3 of her fellow campers ended up going missing. They were never found, so the camp ended up closing down, and I think about 15 years later she gets the opportunity to go back to the camp when it is being reopened, and she kind of uses it as an opportunity to get closure from the situation and also kind of do her own investigation. This book for me started off a little bit slow, but once it took off, it really took off. I feel like I listened to this in like 2 days, which is pretty fast for me when it comes to audiobooks. Usually it takes me a lot more time to get through them, but I really enjoyed this book. It really kept me going. It was a very solid thriller, especially since I kind of feel like at the end of last year I was going through kind of a thriller slump, so this one really re-sparked my interest in looking at more thrillers and mysteries. So there are 2 like kind of plot twists in the book, and I saw the first one coming. Well, I guessed it, but I was really proud of myself for guessing it. And then the second one, which kind of comes at the very end of the novel, was actually something that really surprised me, and I thought the ending to this thriller was perfect, at least in my opinion. One thing that really bothered me about this book is that mental illness, it's used to have other characters question the main character's reliability. And for me, that is something that I'm kind of sort of really getting tired of in books. I don't know if that's just me. If it is, let me know. But basically, after this whole incident where she basically loses 3 of her best friends, she spends some time in a mental hospital, and it's when she is a juvenile, so the records are sealed. And then when she is going back to the camp, she finds out that, you know, these people actually got access to these records, and they know that she spent this time in this hospital. And after some things go down, her reliability is called into question because of this time that she spent in the mental hospital. And I don't, God, it kind of frustrates me, just because I think, I don't know, like, I don't know. If you have an opinion on this, let me know down below, please. But I did still enjoy this thriller. I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And then the final book that I finished during the month of February was A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I don't even know where to begin talking about this book because it's so big, first of all, and I feel like so many people already know what it's about. This actually kind of broke my Game of Thrones virginity because I had never seen the show and I had never read the books, and I am so happy that I read this because it was so good. I had such an amazing time reading from all of our characters, even the characters that I disliked, and I am very excited to continue because I just feel like there's so much that I'm going to learn about this world and these characters, and there's so much I'm going to see and so much that's going to be revealed, and I think it's gonna hurt, but it's gonna hurt in the best way possible. And I loved it. I'm not gonna go into what this is about because it's really complicated, so if you're curious and you don't know, definitely look up like a Goodreads synopsis or something because there's so much. There's so much. I'm not entirely sure still what I'm going to end up rating this, just because it is the first book in like a very epic high fantasy series, and I feel like this just kind of sets the stage. Even though so much happens in this book, I feel like it's just like the ante is going to continue to be upped. I feel like there's so much that's going to happen and that's going to be revealed. So I hesitate to give this 5 stars just because I feel like it's just going to continue to get better. But it very much was like very close to a 5 stars for me. I will probably end up giving it like a 4 or 4.5 on Goodreads, but I enjoyed this a lot. So Those were all of the books that I read in the month of February, not including the 6 books that I read for Contemporary-a-thon. But yeah, if you have read any of these books or you want to discuss them with me, please leave a comment down below. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I hope you'll choose to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!